All right, let's see how this goes here. Should be starting pretty soon. And we'll get it going. Just waiting for this thing to fire up. Boom, 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 boom. Is it moving? Let's see, make sure this thing is live. Okay. I think that should be live. And if I refresh that, is it working? Yes, it is. It is working. What's up, guys? Welcome to the party, the show. This is a very exciting time to be in the crypto space. Welcome to everybody. Make sure when you join, you hit the thumbs up button. Let me know you're here. And pop your name into the chat box. I've got this thing up and running. You guys can see the chat box yourself. Today, what we're talking about, as you can imagine, is this lovely dip situation that's going on right now. Both Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin. We're going to look at the overall market, and then we're going to talk about a little bit about the news, some things that are going on, and then hopefully I can field some questions as we go through this whole thing. And more importantly, give you guys a little bit of perspective about the way I'm looking at this. Obviously, none of this is financial advice, and you got to make your own decisions, but I think it can be helpful if you just hear what I'm doing, right? And see what's going on. So make sure you drop a line. Let me know your name, where you're coming from. Just write in that chat box. And if you haven't already, hit the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button if you're not already. And let me know. We're just going to let everybody roll in here. I have no idea how many people are on this, but we will check it out. So I've got the chat box over here. That's why you're going to see me looking to the side. We got, let's see, Jesse from Ireland, Joel from Amsterdam, Glenn's from Russia, Poland. What's up, guys? Awesome. Spokane, Toronto. Terrific. All right, very cool, guys. Well, we got a really good crew in the house. Love the energy. And I'm sure many of you woke up and last 2 days, I should say, and are like, oh my God, what's going on? So let's look at Bitcoin first. Now, as you guys know, what I typically try to look at, or I look at mostly, is the price, which is where it is on the chart, and then the volume. And I think that this is probably the bigger, anytime you're looking at any sort of transition in the market, this is really what to look at. Now, if you guys have been watching, you know I do not consider myself a proficient technical analysis, but this is pretty, you can start to see some pretty good patterns with this. Now, what you're looking for is the highest high tends to drive the biggest change in the market. And when you don't see the highest high, what that means is typically it starts to stagnate. So we could see a continuation of this pattern sideways without getting a huge spike. I think that's something that I often didn't realize at first, is that I thought you needed this thing to be like the biggest volume, but in fact, it can just maintain high volume to keep the price. Now, the other thing that's to notice with Bitcoin, so if you don't know, like we're on a Fibonacci retracement right now. This is the one from, what was this? This is like September, right? Down to the 3,000 level. So this is a pretty solid trend line to be watching. We're at the 61 fib retracement, and you see it's bouncing pretty well off that. Now, if you guys are looking at candles, just want to make sure you guys can see all this. I'm on the 4-hour candle, which I think is a good time frame for this particular. I'm going to click off the auto so that I can pull this up. What we really want to see, or at least one, if you are a candle technical trader, which I really am not, but you would want to see what's called a bullish engulfing candle, meaning you would want to see this green candle be much, much bigger when it closes out than this red candle. That is a bullish reversal sign. There's other different technical things you could do with like crosses and dojis and things like that. But for the most part, you need to see this candle close much larger than the candle before it. And the bigger the time frame you go on, the more of a true indicator it is. So you can see here, we go out to the daily, this looks very, very different than the 4 hour, which is why you always want to look at this. So what does this mean for you? Well, it really means that in my opinion, we are not out of the water yet. There's not been a clear reversal signal. There hasn't been a clear signal really of anything, both on the news side or on the chart side. So while on the 4 hour, we are starting to see some sort of green, the volume is not telling the story that we've seen in the past, where it really concentrates to push the whole market back up. So that's what we're looking at with Bitcoin. I think that the next level, the fib doesn't really do it justice, but I think the next levels, you go down to anywhere between maybe 86, 87 down to 83. This might be a buy zone. You could get into the 7,500s, and then you're going to see like really strong support as you get down to anywhere between 75 and 61. This is going to be like a really big consolidation. And then we can get down to the 49, like the age-old 49. I don't think we're going to get there. If we did, it'd be pretty amazing from a buying standpoint, but that would be pretty huge. But you never know. So I think that that's the way to look at this. Really keep an eye on this volume, guys. And more importantly, keep an eye on longer time frames. It's really tempting, I know, to go into like the 2 minute or the 5 minute or the 1 minute and look at the things going a million miles an hour. But you really need these longer term, candles. That's how you're going to be able to see more, accurate decision making. All right. So now on Ethereum, I haven't drawn anything on this chart because I think that this is it's a little different, at least on the USD. This is more of it's less parabolic than Bitcoin, meaning there's less of a retracement or a parabolic retracement in that sense, meaning a lot of this analysis, I would look at volume, which obviously Ethereum's actually got some pretty good volume on this dump. And then you start looking at previous resistance levels as new support. So you can see it back here at 870. We had some right here at 750. We're starting to see some, which is where we are right now. And then you just go down the chart and until you get to, let's say 396, 400, at least on Coinbase, which may seem a little extreme, but that would be like the next really major support level if we did get down that far. And so what do is you layer your bids so that they get higher and higher, more and more. You start investing bigger and bigger amounts of money. If you don't have any money, then this is a good time to unplug your computer and to go for a long, long walk and hopefully do something completely unrelated to crypto. All right, cool. So let's see here. Same with Litecoin. Let me just pop over to the messages, make sure that everything is good to go on the messages. Benjamin, what's up? Happy discount day. Happy discount, guys. All right. Cool. Yeah, we'll get to BitConnect. I know that's what you guys like to talk about. It's funny how emotional people are about other people losing, and as opposed to focusing on winning themselves. And I'm not saying I don't necessarily agree with BitConnect or anything like that. I never promoted it by any means, but realize that the more time you spend focusing on other people losing, the higher your chances of losing yourself, because you're not focused on you winning. So that's all I'm going to say about that for now. We'll talk about that in a bit, but keep that in mind. You gotta focus on your game. Don't focus on other people's games. Like, that's just a waste of your energy. That's not what winners do. Like, winners focus on their own stuff. All right. So with Litecoin, actually, it doesn't look as good on Litecoin. I'm bullish on Litecoin, but unfortunately, what the charts are telling me is not nearly as good as what I'm seeing on Ethereum or Bitcoin, which is really unfortunate to say, but it's the truth. And I can't, you got to go with what the charts tell you. And so you're looking at the retracement on this, and the 78 retracement. It does fill in this like run up right here, at least on the 4 hour. And then you get into a pretty good support level right around $100. It's kind of US dollars. That could work. Now, obviously, this really depends on what Bitcoin does, but Litecoin's kind of in a no man's land right now. The volume isn't that good. So the only way, in my opinion, for Litecoin to stabilize, other than these natural levels, is for Bitcoin to stabilize and really carry the weight for Litecoin. The other thing to keep in mind is that once it gets below some of these major lines, especially the 50, it's got to break through that again. So even if it did come back around, it's got to bust through that line with enough momentum and enough volume to have it go up. So I'm still into Litecoin. I still think it's good. I still think it could actually bounce back a lot faster than some of the other coins, but it's got some work to do on the charts. And there's nothing I can really do about that. That's just what the charts are telling me, even though it's not the news I necessarily want to hear. It is what it is. Cool. So that's where we're at with the big three. You guys know I focus on the big three for the most part because that's really the name of the game in days like today, or stretches like today, the 48 hours where Bitcoin really steps up to the plate and reminds you that it's still swinging the big bat. Okay, let's see here. Let's take a few questions before we dive into the next piece. Let's see here. I literally just would you sell your alt? Jay asks, would you sell all your alt positions now? I would not do that. First of all, you never sell everything at any one particular moment. You always scale in and out of any position for 99% of the time. If you hear about something either very, very good or very, very bad that's going to happen, maybe you go all in, but that's a one-time unicorn event. So I think what you do, first thing, when things are going down, you want to be buying stuff. And if you can't buy, realize that the only reason you're selling is to satisfy some sort of biological need to feel survival, to get control back. Okay? If the fundamentals typically have not changed on any of these coins, other than things like BitConnect, which get shut down, right? This is all news-driven events. So once you just kind of own the fact that it's not about the coin, it's not about the money, it's about you and how you feel, then you try to make a more informed decision. That's why you want to have a plan. So the short answer is no, you don't really want to be selling all your alts here. I think what you do want to do is get very, very real about what sort of coins you're holding. Because while I do believe that this is going to come back one way or another, it's whether it takes a week, whether it takes a month, whether it takes 48 hours, I don't know, but it's going to come back at some point. I firmly believe that. And when it does, it'll go back up, and then this will happen again. And if you continue to hold low quality coins, you're just going to continue to get all your profits eaten up, at least in terms of Bitcoin amounts, and you're just really going to be shortchanging yourself, no pun intended. So I always look at situations like this as ways to get really good reality checks on the health of your portfolio and all that sort of thing. Let's get one more question just before we dive in. Michael says many people don't know much about the fundamentals of your coins. It's really true, and I think that's what price does, right? Well, that's what happens on a market. Is you when you assign a market price to an asset, price gets confused with value, and value and price are very different. We talk about this in the newsletter, if Coin Mastery newsletter, if you're not on it, where like the idea of value versus valuation, price versus value. And I think that's what's happened, especially in the last 2 months with altcoins and these huge run up in altcoins, is we often confuse price with how valuable something really is. And the value is in itself a speculative conversation. But what I would encourage everybody to do is look through your portfolio and be able to look at your coin and not only tell yourself what the story is, like, oh, I own NEO, it's the Ethereum of China, blah, blah, blah. Like, what does the tech do? Who's on the team? Why will it be the biggest winner from a protocol in China? What connections do they have? What are they doing? What was on their latest newsletter update? There's a lot you can do to learn about everything that goes into that particular coin, that asset, that gives it the value that it has. And then you can start to make informed decisions on whether or not the value of the coin matches the price that the market is giving it. And what's happening right now, in my opinion, is that coins aren't losing value. It's just that they were way overpriced. And so they're coming down. And that's why you're seeing coins that have more inherent value are going to stabilize better. They're going to bounce back better. And they're just going to give you better long-term returns. That's how it always works. Because at the end of the day, you're playing against a casino if you don't play with a value card. Otherwise, you are speculating. And the only way to win on speculation is have insider information. And that's just a hard game to play long-term. Okay, so let's just look at this real quick. We could see that with the global charts, make sure I move my face down a little bit so you guys can see this a little bit better. With the global charts, total market capitalization, one of the things I was trying to look at, especially let's see if the 1 month really shows it, is whether or not the technicals on this were going to match the technicals on one of these market charts, meaning the resistance that we saw in December around Christmas, was that going to become support for this next run? And unfortunately, that did not happen. So it actually looks more like a retracement now. And you can't do any sort of analysis on this, but you can see that there's a dip, and you may want to do a log scale to see a little bit of a better description on or representation of it. Similarly, you can see that it's much more severe on everything that does not include Bitcoin, at least for the last, let's say, 3 months. You can see that there's a very, very large dip. So it is what it is, right? The bottom line, what this means is that this is not, the overall market cap is not in a bull run trend channel, loosely speaking. It's not a bad thing. It just means that we're kind of resetting the clock a little bit. And speaking of resetting, Bitcoin is starting to make its way back up. We're back up to 37. We've been tracking it down to 31, I think was the lowest, up to 37. Whether or not that this continues up the way it does over the long term, I don't know. But I think what's really going to happen is that a lot of lower quality coins are going to lose market dominance. Money's got to go somewhere. Bitcoin is the obvious absorber of that. And it just absorbs it. That's how it gets the market back. Cool. All right, let me pull this back up a little bit. A couple pieces of news. It kind of, there's an expression, when it rains, it pours. That's typically what happens here. So we had China kind of coming back and saying that they're trying to ban peer-to-peer exchanges, which is, whatever. France coming out saying that they're getting skeptical about crypto. Korea all coming out at once. You can go through everything on the news on Cointelegraph. You can go on any news outlet. I'm not saying Cointelegraph is the best news outlet by any means, but it just seems like that's really what happens. And then you layer on what may be happening behind the scenes with real market makers, right? Banks, funds, institutions, private investors, family offices, anybody who's trying to get Bitcoin at a cheap price. Whether through short selling, whether through accumulation, whether through coordinated attacks, whatever it may be. But the bottom line is nobody knows. And I think that this is something that we talked about yesterday. I think that this is helpful to keep in mind, is that there's never going to be one particular thing that you can look at or point to and realize and say that's what's causing it. And more importantly, even if you did know what was causing it, what would you do differently? Would you start buying differently? Would you sell differently? You can never let news change your plan unless it is, fundamentally devastating to your portfolio. But all this sort of stuff, all these rumors, all these, here's what's happening with China, or here's what's happening with futures, or here's what's happening with BitConnect. It doesn't matter. It just gets baked into the price, and your particular buying strategy should not be affected by news that comes that in the next 2 weeks is going to be completely BS. Right? This doesn't change the fundamentals of any of the cryptos out there. It just changes the perception of crypto and the strength at which people can hold crypto. All right, now let's see if there's any. If you have any questions, feel free to pop them in there. I will answer them. Let's talk about BitConnect real quick. Like I said before, I'm not a fan of BitConnect, but it is what it is. Try to stay objective as possible. It sounds like they're closing it, but they're still trading it. The platform is going to stay open, but they're refunding the tokens. The price absolutely went to, like, I don't think it went to zero yet, but it's pretty bad. Let me see here, BitConnect, and so $27. It went all the way down. So I mean, this is what a crash looks like. Right? This is bad. And there's obviously there's a huge market cap behind BitConnect, so that probably led to a big amount of not a big amount. That was a factor in the sell-off. Now, what does this mean to you? Okay, the first thing you got to do is you got to be able to remove the emotion from your trading. It's funny to me how people are like, they hate something so much, but they also love something so much that is has their own fundamental flaws or not flaws. Meaning, like, oh, you love BitConnect, or you hate BitConnect, but you love Tron, or you hate BitConnect, or you love Bitcoin, or vice versa. And all I'm saying is that you gotta just, you can trade however you want to trade, but you can't let your emotions get involved in it. You got to trade based on objective stuff. And if you spend a lot of your time hating on it and like telling people how dumb they are or how stupid they are, like that's just not going to help you at all. It's not going to make you any more money. It's going to make you feel a little bit better because you have a little more status in life for like 20 minutes, but it's not worth your time. It's not worth anything. And I don't agree with how a lot of people promoted this. I don't agree with the platform, but your energy, your focus is so critical in times like this. Do not give it to this. It's like watching TMZ while the biggest opportunity of your life is passing you by. Just don't focus on it. Focus on stuff that's actually going to make you money and not what's going to make you feel better. I think that's just like a really important thing that often gets forgotten when things like this, like the "I told you so" is just very powerful. So anyway, other thing to think about, which is going to be really interesting with the timing, is right now or tomorrow, I guess, this weekend, there's a huge Bitcoin conference in Miami. I know a lot of people going to this, a lot of very smart, heavy-hitting people going to this, a lot of fun guys, men and women going to this. And more importantly, there's a lot of coins and cryptos that are going to be here making announcements, coming up with new, hey, here's what we're doing, or here's some new partnerships or whatever. You're going to see a lot of stuff happening at this crypto conference. And so, yes, we are in the middle of a very strong bear movement. Call it a dip, call it a crash, whatever you want. But there's going to be a lot of bullish energy coming out of this conference. I don't think it has enough juice to overpower this, but this can definitely help dampen the bleeding. And so keep an eye on this. If there's any I don't know if there's live streams or whatever, but keep an eye on Twitter. Keep an eye on the news coming out of this. Not like for nothing else, just watch what the announcements that are coming out. What sort of partnerships are you seeing? Help that, use that to go do good research, to find new coins, to see what sort of partnerships happening, then see how it affects the price. Because like I said, this is not the last time you're going to see this or you're going to feel this way. You want to be able to have as many data points as you can so that in the future, you just look at this and all it is one particular scenario in your plan. It is not good. It's not bad. It's just, it is what it is. So I hope that helps. All right, guys, why don't we do some Q&A? I'm happy to hang out for a little bit here and answer some questions. So if you have any questions, please pop it in the chat box. If you do feel like swearing or saying something really inappropriate, I'm happy to ban you. So let's keep it above the belt, shall we? Let's see here. We got Legion. Carter, Litecoin's most recent big red candle seems to have really low volume compared to the sell-offs. What are your thoughts on that? Well, similar to it's kind of what I was saying a little bit before. I'm just pulling it up right now. You can see it doesn't look good. At least the charts don't look good. And this kills me to say it because I really like Litecoin for 2018. But unfortunately, like the chart, if I was looking at this chart and I didn't know what coin this was, I would be like, man, it's definitely got to fill in down to like a 106. Now, the big difference with Litecoin is really what happens over here with Bitcoin, because there's enough, it follows Bitcoin enough that if there's a reversal on Bitcoin, great. So however far it goes down, it goes down. Now, the good news is no matter how far it goes down, I think it's a pretty easy path back up. But this 50% number, this 220 area, that's going to be pretty hard to break on the next run up. When it does, it's going to fly through it. It's just that this is a very empty, gray no man's land. So I still like Litecoin. I'm still going to keep an eye on it. It's just that unfortunately the charts don't look that great. I guess on some level, I guess this could hold this area, right? If this whole support area holds, but volume just isn't what I like to see. All right, let's see here. Etham asked, at what point should we get in? What is the bottom? Well, Etham, if I knew that, I would not be on YouTube doing live streams. I would have 19 yachts and have donated $600 million to charity by now. But, tongue in cheek aside, I think what you want to think about is the scaling in. Okay. So there's never going to be the perfect moment to jump in and the perfect moment not to jump in. There's always going to be a plan that you execute. So what I would tell anybody, I would say what I would do, because none of this is advice, right? This is just my opinion and experience. If I was just getting started today, I would probably keep watching this 10,000 area. I'd probably put in like 5 or 10% of my money right in around here. And then I would start layering bids in, hoping that the price would dip down, or I would get some quick buys, all the way down to even 5,000, which sounds crazy, but that's what I would do, because all I care about is not losing money. I don't care about making money when I'm buying it. I just care about not losing it, protecting myself, or at least averaging myself down to a better price. So it's not Etham, the best advice or best thing I could tell you is you're not looking for a single moment or a single price to get in. You're looking for a beginning of your layered bids to get in. And I would say that this is as good a time as any, because there's been, it's retested 9,800 like 3 times already. So that's what I would say. Okay, let's see. David, everyone wants a Lambo. I want a Rolls and a driver. Cool, right? Depreciating assets. That's an interesting investment strategy. Jorge says EOS. EOS is interesting. I think EOS is, it may have some room to go because it is unique and different. It's the first real scaling solution that came out. I'm not totally sold on EOS long term, but I do think that it has some room in the short term to go up once all this price action starts to work itself out. So I would put an asterisk on EOS for long term, but it may be a good short term play. That's my opinion. I have no idea what's going to happen though. Let's see here. Tony says, NEO looks like the safest investment. Well, I think the first thing is, as bullish as I am on this over the next 10 years, crypto is extremely risky. Everything in crypto is extremely risky. So it's easy to get sucked into it and, get lost in that. But at the end of the day, you still got to pay your bills. You still got to pay your taxes if that's your thing. You still need money. You have to have some protection. And I think it's actually, you need more than you may think. When it comes to NEO, kind of coming down to that price versus value thing, or value versus valuation. I think NEO is super solid. I think you're seeing a lot of price movement right now because of all these ICOs that are coming out. It's very attractive. It's exactly like Ethereum. So as long as these ICOs continue to come out on NEO and continue to get the hype that they're getting, NEO is a very good investment. But as soon as that ICO juice slows down, the price of NEO is going to go down. So I personally like NEO. I don't own it. I don't own as much as I probably would like to own, but I do like it. I think it's a fast technology. The thing about NEO is that we haven't seen it stress tested. In fact, we've only really seen two currencies stress tested. We've seen Bitcoin and we've seen Litecoin stress tested. We've kind of seen Bitcoin Cash stress tested, kind of seen Litecoin, or I should say Bitcoin Ethereum of what we've seen stress tested. Bitcoin Cash and Litecoin we've kind of seen. And none of them have been able to hold up underneath the wrath of crypto network activity. And so that's like the big thing. That's the big question. And that's really the big answer that everyone's looking for is what can scale and still maintain its integrity as a decentralized network. Can NEO do that? I don't know. Because nobody knows, because we can't beta test that transaction level in a real world environment. So I know everyone's trying to figure that out, and there's a lot with things like Hashgraph and the different types of networked blockchain type of solutions, but nobody knows like how to balance decentralization with scale. Silvino Carter, do you keep fiat sitting in your exchange as you wait for buy opportunities, or you transfer as needed? I transfer as needed. I try to keep as little on exchanges as possible. Once in a while, I will keep something on an exchange for fiat purposes, especially if it's FDIC insured in the United States, which is Gemini, GDAX, and Coinbase are. But for the most part, I try to keep it off the exchanges. One, for operational security, which is very important. But two, the easier it is to access your money, the easier it is to spend it. And I've said this in my videos, I try to outsource myself at all times when it comes to investing. And I know that when I'm in the midst of something going on in the markets, I'm going to I'm a human. I have dopamine too. I mean, I get fired up about stuff. And if I can't easily access the fiat, I need to be really certain about the trade before I go and actually go access it and get it into the exchange. So that's the way I think about it, is in those two ways. I'm going to pull this up. I'm going to go to the 5-minute just because it's more like TV. You guys can watch something as I talk here. Let me move this over so you guys can see it. All right, let's see. Scroll down to the bottom here. After time, AirSwap. AirSwap's interesting. Decentralized exchanges, and it's decentralized exchanges. I think are going to have a lot of wins and a lot of obstacles in 2018. It's going to be a really hot topic, but they still got to figure out liquidity. They still got to figure out speed, and they got to figure out support. All of which are no small feats, but AirSwap is just as good as, or I shouldn't say, it's in the same world as 0x protocol, and NEO's coming out with a decentralized exchange pretty soon. So there's plenty of them out there. It's just that those are the problems: liquidity, support, speed. Eric, is Ethereum Classic a hedge play for Ethereum? Yeah, in some ways it is, for sure. I think that it's kind of a hedge play, but it's kind of not. It's kind of like how Ripple and Stellar are kind of hedges against each other, but they're not, right? They kind of mirror each other, but they offer two different solutions, even though they have similar code. I think what the hedge on Ethereum Classic, or as Ethereum is the dev team and the forking strategy. For anyone who doesn't know, Ethereum Classic is a hard fork of Ethereum, of regular Ethereum, and it's just it's more of like a finite supply type of situation. Once Ethereum Classic starts building on top of it, which they're starting to do, that's going to be interesting. I think the other thing to think about is that Ethereum Classic is easier to package up into an understandable asset as opposed to Ethereum, which is a kind of an ever-evolving platform because it's so open sourced. In other words, it's easier to control Ethereum Classic from an investor standpoint. That's why companies like Digital Currency Group own a huge stake in Ethereum Classic, Zcash, Ripple, all these coins that are less of a community focus. And I say that lightly. I'm not trying to, pick any fights here. Okay. Let's see here. Luke has been drunk all week. Has he missed anything? No, Luke, you're probably doing good, man. I would say just keep it going through the weekend, and next Monday we'll be all set. Frank asks, is Ryblox going to grow this year? I don't know much. I don't know about Ryblox. As you guys know, I bought a pile of it when it was super cheap, and I've just been sitting on it. Obviously sold out my initial investment on it, but it's a good example of the scaling debate. Can it scale? It's super fast. There's no fees. That is very appealing from a consumer standpoint, but I'm wondering where the incentives are. For better or for worse, something like Bitcoin has miners. There's incentives that keep the integrity of the blockchain in place. And I know that it's a different beast with networked worlds like IOTA and Ryblox being examples, EOS to a certain extent being like that. But I'm not totally convinced that Ryblox is going to have a huge future. I mean, selfishly, I hope it does. It'd be amazing. I'd be out of here chilling. But I'm not sure. I don't know if it can withstand the kind of network integrity that's required for an asset to proliferate and grow. I could be wrong. They've got a great dev team. They've got a great community. So I hope I'm wrong. Alex, Tron. I don't know much about Tron. I mean, I don't own any Tron. I'll put it that way. And I think that anybody who does own Tron should really look at how much it's worth, how much the market price is, and how much it's really worth. And what I would really encourage you to do is try to get information about the actual team and specifically about the history of the team. Because as you dig in, you're going to find that there's a lot of the people that worked on Tron early are no longer there because a variety of reasons. And when you really dig into the company, if you didn't know the market cap, you would never think that it's worth whatever it's worth, like billions and millions of dollars. I don't know what it's worth now with this new market cap dropping, but I don't know. I think that I was talking to my buddy yesterday, like, guys, anytime you feel like there's an inevitability that you're going to make easy, big money, that's when you got to get out, right? When you buy something, you're like, I know this is just going to go up 500% or something because there's a formula that's going to allow me to. That is when the market will just dump. Like, that's kind of what happened in the last 2 weeks. Everyone's like, oh, there's a formula for ICOs. There's a formula for altcoins. I know how to list it on Binance. I know exactly how the thing's going to blow up. As soon as that starts happening, there's going to be this 48-hour, 72-hour window where a lot of the smart money starts to be like, this is ridiculous. And they flip it and to try to shake out all the weak hands, to move the money. And that's the thing I always try to remember for myself. This market, any market, right here, this thing, this beast, this juggernaut of crypto, this is not your friend. Okay, this is not here to make us all rich. This is here to take money from people that can't hold on to their crypto and give it to people that can. That is what this is designed to do. This is not designed to make us all feel good and ride off into the sunset in whatever car you want and have your dreams handed to you. And the longer you stay in here, the more you got to respect that and be humble about it and not think that you got it figured out. And I think when you have smaller, potentially lower quality coins that are delivering massive returns, it's just a matter of time until this happens. That's my opinion. Plenty of people would be like, hey, well, I made 9,000% on this. And that's good. I hope you got out and I hope that you cashed out. The problem is that 90% of people don't. And now they're like, oh, whoops. Let's see here. Javier, any opinions on Venn or POE? Both are getting a lot of good publicity. I think Venn is a little overpriced, but I think it has some interesting stuff. I've been digging into that. I like what they're trying to do with not only the money supply side of it, but with their connections, their partnerships, how they're integrating with other chains. I think that they're trying to solve that protocol level of problem. So that's really interesting in my opinion. But again, I think that it's just so overpriced based on the size of people actually using it right now, as is everything. I mean, everything on the market is overpriced, and that's what we're seeing. Poet, for anybody who doesn't know, that's like a decentralized content. What do you call it? It's kind of like Steemit, or it's not. No, I shouldn't say that. It adds like digital rights to your content, so that if you write a blog post or you make a video, it has a token that makes it guaranteed. I think that's a tough business because it requires a lot of customer facing parts of it, which I talked about yesterday in the video. I think that's a hard investment strategy right now, but the team on the Poet team is really solid. A couple of those team members they're smart people and they know what they're doing. So I think that as an investor, I'm really focused on the bigger stuff. I'm focused on the protocols and the stuff that companies and banks are going to use, as more so than I'm focused on things that the consumers are going to use, at least right now. In 5 years, that may change, but that's just my opinion. And it may not deliver the biggest returns right now, but I think it's going to give me the best portfolio setup so that in 5 years, that's going to give me the most money, right? That's all I think about is in 2025, whatever, how will I have the largest amount of wealth possible? I don't think about what's going to make me the most money right now because, that's my thing. Let's see. M3R3. Where was that question? I don't know where it just went. Art Ballin asks, been thinking a lot about B2B cryptos from yesterday. What kind of coins or industries are good in your opinion? I think that any business for B2B that has a real problem that money is causing. Okay, and money can cause that problem through a variety of reasons. It can cause it through, holidays and weekends. It can cause it through hosting and merchant providers. It can cause it through laws and regulations. It can cause it through paper trails, and there's a lot of reasons, problems that money can solve, problems that money can cause. So to answer your question, Art Ballin, I think that there are industries where money is a huge issue. For example, I think things like cannabis have a huge problem with money right now. If you go to a dispensary, where I'm in California, you go to a dispensary, they have like vaults in the back of their stores that are just, it's blocks of cash because they can't put it into federal banks because there's federal law and there's state laws in cannabis. That is a serious problem because they can't scale their businesses on cash. They can't pay employees. They got to be able to give W-2s to employees and things like that. They can't actually take out loans and stuff unless it's all done privately. So I think that's a good industry or example, right? Similarly with the adult industry, I know this sounds crazy. I saw this presentation at the conference, but they have huge problems with being able to get hosting and merchant processors and credit cards to accept their money. And I'm not saying I endorse this or any of these categories. I'm just saying these are real business problems. Similarly, banks It's expensive to use the SWIFT system. It's expensive to send money from one place to another. You also can't do it 24 hours a day. You can't do it quickly. You got to go through a bank. So, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. But I would look at the problems that businesses currently have that money is causing, and then I would look at the problems that businesses have that, like, a lack of, like, the blockchain could solve. I think securities tokens are a good example of that. Being able to replace stock exchanges with a blockchain, that's a very interesting use case for me. Something like that. So stuff like that, right? It's kind of big, boring stuff, but it's, that's a big amount of big part of it. That's where the big money is in the early stages of these kind of like movements being built. Starry Night, can you give your latest thoughts on Monero and its futures? Big fan of Monero. I think privacy coins are going to continue to be an incredible market for 2018. And I think that I like Monero's dev team a lot. I like their tech a lot. I like how product focused they are. And I like how they're just slowly marching towards a vision of an anonymous money through tech, through their brand, through the team. So I like them. I'm a fan for sure. I bought a lot. You guys saw like early in July, I bought some like 27. I've always been a fan of them, more so than others because of their ability to be the outlier in many ways in the crypto world. It's kind of like nobody's like Monero. There's not a lot of comparisons like Monero, which I like a lot. ICX Salt. ICX Icon, really, really exciting. I mean, the thing has just been on a tear. I think that the growth of that has been pretty insane. So that always makes me a little skeptical of anything that goes up that much, that fast, without the true transactions being driven. But I do like that. I do like that any sort of platform or protocol where it's got the ability to create a place for people to build on top of. So I like that. I just don't like the price. I think it's just too high, too fast. Too many people got rich off that too fast. So we'll see. I could eat my words on that, but I do like it as a where it's going. Salt, the lending platform. I don't know. I have mixed feelings on Salt because I always look at peer-to-peer lending. I don't know if anyone has ever done Lending Club or Prosper or any of these like peer-to-peer. That's basically a failed business model. They had a very, very hard time making that or consistently making that a good business venture. And there's two parts to that. One is the investor returns. So at first they're like, oh yeah, we can deliver 8 to 15% returns depending on the risk profile of the loans you do peer-to-peer. But the problem is that they had a huge issue with people paying back the loans, even in a massively bull market. That's a problem because peer-to-peer lending hasn't really existed in a bear market in the global economy, like the global equities, bonds, municipalities, everything. So with Salt, it's on a blockchain. But my question is, why do we really need a token for that? I mean, I get the model. I mean, I understand why they have a token, but it's like, is it critical to Salt's, to the lending world? And more importantly, how does that accommodate for debt? How does it accommodate for credit? Both of which are like, there's a lot of people that default on loans. In fact, there's more people than many people realize. And I haven't, maybe Salt has that answer. Maybe I'm missing but lending is a game of debt. It is not a game of accountability or tracking it or making lending easier. It is a game of buying and selling debt around the loans. That's what the real game is, like debt and credit. That's what really drives all this. So let's see here. Alan, why do I hate XRP. I don't think I hate it. I think that it's not quite a, it's, first of all, it's centralized. Second of all, I think a lot of what people believe about Ripple and what is actually going on with Ripple are two very different things in terms of how it's used. Like the banks, well, first of all, a lot of the banks don't necessarily use it, and they definitely don't use any of the tokens. So like there's no actual token value being used. It's just a protocol, which doesn't really help. It's so like the company is getting really rich, getting going up in value, but the tokens are not really being used. That to me is a very strange dichotomy. But at the same time, when it comes to short-term price action, when it comes to making money on Ripple, I've made plenty of money on Ripple just on swing trading it. Doesn't mean I like it. It's just that that's a very compelling story, and a lot of these like CNBC and people, like everybody, it's like, oh, Ripple it's so cheap and it's the banking coin. Like, I'll play that story all day. Doesn't necessarily mean I believe it. So I think long term, Ripple's gonna have a really hard time. I have yet to meet somebody who is really, really dialed in the blockchain world on the engineering side that is pro Ripple. That's usually an issue for long term. That's my opinion. It's not I'm sure other people have different ones. Perudia, what are the protocol coins you're talking about? Just go into CoinMarketCap, right? So if I pop this open, where is it? So if you go on CoinMarketCap, protocol coins is anything that is a platform that people can build on top of. And this is a really good exercise. If you don't know what those are, I would encourage you to go through. It's typically going to be the biggest ones, just FYI. Go through these, go to the websites, and look at how these are being built, right? And the way you can figure this, like the short way to do this, do these have things being built on top of them? So like Qtum, for example, there are companies or coins or applications being built on top of Qtum. So the Qtum blockchain drives the activity of the application. So Ethereum is obviously one. Stellar is one. They're doing an ICO this week. Cardano's one. I mean, you can go down the list, but that's what the protocols are. And that's why I'm really bullish on the top 20, 30 coins more than almost anything else this year for gains. All right. Let's see here. What else we got? Get down to the bottom. What's your opinion on Cardano? I think Cardano's, I have mixed opinions on Cardano. I think that I've talked to a lot of developers that like it. I've talked to a lot of developers that don't like it. It's a little skeptical that there's not a whole lot of product being shipped by Cardano, and it's worth as much as it's worth. That being said, it does have some scalability that is interesting. So I've got my eye on it, and I'm hoping that they'll start to release products, dApps, stuff like that. And so yeah, I'm just kind of like a wait and see with Cardano. It's fascinating to me that's in the top 10 without really, it's got a higher market cap than something like Neo, and Neo's thrown out massive amounts of companies and ICOs and applications on top of it. I don't know. Like, how do you value a coin? It's kind of it's a personal thing. So, right. One thing to keep in mind, we talked about this, is the best way to value a coin, way I value it, is the value of the network. What is the value of the network? The more applications, the more people that use it, the more transaction volume, that is the value of crypto, of a crypto coin. That will consistently be the value of a crypto coin. So it goes. Let's see here. Let's see. What could you take a look at the Lant? Man, there's a lot of questions. Do I take it Atlant? It's real estate. I have not. I think that's a good. So the question is, did you look at Atlant? It's aiming the real estate market for Airbnb market. That's a really good. Without knowing anything about this coin, it could be the next $1 trillion coin for all I know. Does it absolutely have to use a token, or should this company be raising equity and doing it with something else? I don't know, but Airbnb works without a token pretty well. Like, why do we need to add the blockchain to certain companies? Sometimes you do, but many times you don't. So that's the big question I would ask in any environment like that, right? Anytime I hear something that's like, oh, well, it's like this company, but it's actually on the blockchain. I'm like, well, who cares? Like, why do you have to put it on the blockchain, right? Substratum, long-term, short and long-term thoughts. Really interested in the idea of whatever you call it, like decentralized web, or the kind of the protocols that go around the ISPs, like being able to anonymize yourself, especially with net neutrality. I think that Substratum's got some really good marketing with less of a product. I think you look at something like Shift and you've got a good product in the works with less marketing. And you look at something like Zencash that's got the domain masking, which can solve it in a third way without actually building the protocol. They're building a masking service so that you could potentially run any website without having to use the data doesn't flow through the coin. It just, the domain is impossible for anything to track where it's coming from. So there's all different ways for these to work themselves out. But I tend to be in the early stages, like we are here, like we are in very, very early stages of crypto. I care much more about the products than I do about the marketing. And that's odd to say as a marketer, as a businessman who built a couple of businesses on, entrepreneurship based on marketing. I as I study history though, it's, you got to follow the good products early. And the marketing can get you the short-term gains, but the products will get you the long-term gains. And different strokes for different folks. And, that's what I think. Let's see here. I'll do a couple more of these because, we'd probably go on for all day about these. But it's amazing. Like, I tweeted about this a long time ago. It's like hey, what are your thoughts on blank is like hey, can you help me move on Saturday? It's like, oh yeah, give me your thoughts on this. Give me your thoughts. But I love it. That's why I'm here. Let's see. Thoughts on OMG. Big fan of Omise Go. I like what those guys are doing. I think that they're going to have a huge next 3 years. Let's see here. XCZ. You guys know I love Zcoin. I do run masternodes. Masternodes, what coin? I'm going to keep that, off the books. I will say that I'm a big fan of Zcoin. I think that their masternodes, if you're going to run one, if you can afford one, they got the best chance of being the next Dash. So check them out for sure. 0x, love it, but I think that they're going to run into a lot of obstacles before they really blow up. But I think if 0x does blow up, it's going to blow up huge. Like if you want to look at a potential 100x coin over the next 3 years, I think 0x is a complete lotto ticket for that, but I could see that happening. The same way I could see Neo going 100x in the next 4 or 5 years. Isaac, does money bring you happiness? Sometimes, yeah. Because I can tell you one thing. I've built business. I've made a lot of money in recent years, and I've lost a lot. And so when you make a lot, and then you lose a lot, and then you make a lot, and you lose a lot, you learn, money has a different meaning at some point. And I'm not trying to be preachy about anything, and everyone's got their own situations and I completely empathize with that. But what I will tell you about money, in my opinion at least, is that it can remove a lot of things that make you unhappy. And if you are unhappy, you're going to have a really hard time making other people happy, and you're going to really have a really hard time just living the life you want. I think if you spend money on stuff that gives you pleasure and doesn't remove unhappiness, that's the problem. That's why you don't need to make a ton of money to be happy. You just need to remove the things that are sucking the happiness out of your life. So anyway, it's more like life coachy. Do a couple more questions. Let's see here. What do you think? There's a lot. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap it up here. It seems like we're just getting into the throw a bunch of coins at the walls. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I appreciate it. I'm probably going to be doing a very early video tomorrow because I'm flying out for the weekend and get it in there. But happy charting, happy trading, happy holding for most of you. And in the meantime, I'll catch you soon. All right, everybody. Peace out.